What's up, guys? Another dump in the market today as Bitcoin fell down to under $80,000. It is currently trading at 79,000 even. Now, we know there's going to be a big bounce. Question is, which ones are going to bounce first? I believe Solana will be one of the first to bounce. We had a lot of FUD around, well, not necessarily FUD. A lot of people worried about the unlocks, $350 million. The retail, the meme coin casino really dropped the transaction count, but Solana is so undervalued. We have a few things going on here on the daily, and we'll get back to this chart in more detail, but we're seeing a little bit of bullish divergence on the daily chart. You also have our anchored VWAP coinciding with the bottom end of our zone here, which is around $107.50. Do we get there? I don't know, but Solana on the lower time frame just showing a little bit of strength. You also have this falling channel, falling wedge pattern, so should break to the upside. We did miss out on a long trade that hit our stop loss right under 120, and so looking to enter back into a Solana trade as we inch closer to that $116 level. My name is David. Welcome. Today's show, we're going to talk about a lot of things. Obviously, we're going to talk about charts. We're going to take a look at the macro and how that's affecting it and what to expect. We're going to look at some flows. We'll look at which altcoins are the most oversold. We'll break down those charts, and then we'll take a look at big token unlocks from some of the bigger projects, and we'll kind of analyze what has happened previously. Is there any opportunities to trade them, get ahead of them, and make money with them? So again, welcome to all of you. Hope you guys are doing great. Got a few people in here: Brokyoshi, Mario, Simenimo, what's going on? Zan Kang and Brokyoshi again. What's up, guys? Make sure you hit the like button and let's jump in. Let's first start with the overall markets and how we're doing now. In the morning show, we came in, Bitcoin was knocking on the door. I think it did get down around $77,000. Let me pop this open and we'll throw on a Bitcoin chart. We'll look at the lower time frames. Now, the CME gap, I believe, was completely filled. Last time we had that CME gap. And this is the one we're talking about here. And we'll just go like this. Beautiful. All right. So you see here, that gap has been completely filled. As you can see, the last time we went down here, this was on the 28th of February. We didn't quite fill the entire gap. We got down to around 78,775, but to fill this gap completely, we were looking at 77.6, which we hit on a wick from now yesterday's candle. Excuse me. As the candle has reset. So with the daylight saving time. So again, this is from the CME. So that gap has been completely filled. Now, we do have a gap to the upside. Typically, people, you see the word gap and they think it's always negatives. There's gaps to the upside too that need to get filled. And that gap that we're going to be looking to fill for the CME is between 80, let me drop some signposts on here, some flags. So you have 82,075 to 87,295. That is the gap from close to open from Friday, March 7th until today. Technically this candle yesterday, because obviously the CME is closed, right? Chicago Mercantile Exchange. So 82 to 87.3, this gap will eventually get filled. Now the question is, do we have more downside or are we going to fill that gap sooner than later? I think we're going to get a really nice bounce. As you saw in the thumbnail today, is I think a big bounce is coming, but I think it's going to be a bull trap. I think we have one more big move to the downside. And again, if you guys have been watching me on this show and even on our morning live show, and I'm going to go back to the BTC non-CME chart. This is from Bitstamp. 71,912. Now, I think we're going to get some stops around 75,187. I think that's worth a long. 75,187. You can see this was a kind of a consolidation area for BTC on the larger time frame. As you go back to November of last year, this is before we had that massive run up to new all-time highs. This box between 75,187 and 76,927, do expect for us to catch some support there. If not, my max pain scenario is 71,912, and I do think we get there, although I think we get there on a wick and not on a candle close. Again, this is on the higher time frame. There's a lot of uncertainty in macro, but I'm telling you, Bitcoin is way closer to hitting a bottom than the stock market is. I think the stock market will bleed off for maybe a couple more weeks. 3% days, 2% days. I think we'll get one big like 1,300 point drop in the Dow. But again, if the Dow Jones is 20% away from bottoming, I think Bitcoin is only 5% away from the bottoming. And so that is the areas we want to look at reversing the trend, looking for longs. A few other things you want to look out for. You want to take a look at volume. You want to take a look at certain things, throw on some anchored VWAP in there. If you were like trend based, you can throw the Ichimoku cloud, seeing where we're getting a shift on the lower time frames and kind of work your way up. But at the moment, the move would be to wait for a bounce to a resistance level and then short that resistance level until we hammer out that bottom for BTC. ETH took a drudging today. I mean, I remember looking at this thing at one point. It was down over 5% on the hour. This is ETH, and this was a channel. Okay, so this was a falling wedge, a falling channel, whatever you want to call it. And currently on the daily, at least, let's zoom into the 6 hour. Let's go to the day and let's make these visible on the 6 hour. How you guys feeling, by the way? You guys feeling good? I'm feeling great, man. I'm excited. Let's go here. But I know a lot of people, it might be their first cycle, they're a little spooked. If you have any questions, concerns, thoughts, whatever you'd like to do, or whatever questions that you may have. Why is this thing not showing up? Whatever questions you may have, or concerns, or anything you want me to take a look at, please feel free to throw it in the chat. And then I will come back to the chat every once in a while, and we'll pick some out, and we'll go through them. All right, there we go. Let's go to the 6 hour. Okay. So on the 6 hour, again, ETH on this descending, falling channel wedge, whatever you want to call it. Now, we did break below that. And at least on the 6 hour, we're currently trading above it. Now, this isn't something that I would look at and say, look, this thing's invalidated. Although this would be the first time outside of going back to December 19th, where we closed above or closed below this trend line, but the very next day, we came right back into this pattern. We did have a wick below that nasty wick down to around 2145. This was on Sunday, February 2nd. But again, we came right back in and closed right at the bottom end of our trend line. Now, this range has been getting a lot tighter, okay? So you essentially have a wedge within a wedge. And so I do expect this thing to come back in here, come back, retest the top end of this trend line, which is right around $2,000. I would be looking for a short right around $2,073, as do expect ETH to see some rejection. But if you zoom out to the lower time frames, and just to get rid of these lines, take just look at price action. And take a look at candles, right? Candles tell a big story here. You see wicks, you don't see. And what we're seeing again play out, and we saw it play out last week when I did the show on Thursday, we had a lot of different setups for bear flags on literally everything, right? So we see a big move to the downside, and you see a rising channel, rising wedge, and these things do typically break to the downside, which we saw numerous times. You can call this one a bear flag as well. Down, up, bleeding off, right? And I can probably find maybe a dozen more examples. The big one, I would argue, this is on the hourly. Let's go to the 4 hour. Anyways, there was a bunch of these bear flags that ended up playing out. And if you guys know me, I love trading flag patterns. I think they're pretty reliable. Now, of course, it's all about probability, so not everything goes the way you planned, or if the president decides to annex Canada or whatever else he's up to nowadays, could obviously change the structure of all these charts. But ETH took a big hit, and I'm telling you guys, unless you think ETH is absolutely dead, which I am not in that camp, ETH is going to have a big bounce back. There is no doubt in my mind. You take a look at last time we had this falling wedge. This is going back to March of 2024. We saw the range start to get tight, and then we had a breakout retest, and then ETH broke out from the retest around 30% for Ethereum. Now, this, of course, has been a longer channel to the downside. But again, probability say this thing is going to break to the upside, but we don't want to enter longs here yet, at least me personally. I am still shorting resistance versus longing support. It's just the conditions of the market until we see some metrics and some signals that tell us that we have formed a bottom. With that being said, I'm going to check in with the chat. LFG Mike said, definitely spooked first cycle trying to break the noob losing trend. Lots of news out there regarding macro Trumpers Fed. There's quite a bit of news coming this week. Yeah, I was actually going to go over that. But you know what? Mikey Canning said H-bar. We'll take a look at H-bar. And then T-Bone said, how much lower would Near go? Who knows, dude? Caspa got down to 5 cents. And Near's at like $2 and like 22 cents. That thing ran all the way up to $8. But if this is your first cycle, let me tell you, we've had sharper corrections in the crypto markets. And I'll point you to last cycle. Let's go to last cycle. Now, the initial drop here, this was back April of 2021, where Bitcoin got its initial high. And I'll do the date and time here so we can see how long this drawdown took. So we had that initial big spike down. It was a 54% retracement over 36 days. We had a small relief rally, essentially turned out to be a bull trap. And then we grinded lower to around $29,600. And then we chopped sideways. We continued to trend down, and that lasted around 98 days. And then Bitcoin went on to make new all-time highs, going from around 28.9, 137% gain up to that new all-time high of $69,000. We're seeing the same thing, I believe. I don't think we're out of the bull market. I think we're still in the bull market. I just think the consolidation phases are taking a lot longer. If this was a classic trend as far as the president, the government, no tariff wars, no shaking up the economy, no cuts, no nothing, no GDP slowdown, which, by the way, if you're part of our Patreon, I did do a write-up on macroeconomic conditions and where do I think Bitcoin will bottom specifically and why and how we're going to get there. So if you're part of our Patreon, first of all, thank you. And second of all, make sure to go read that post after this live show is over. So these drawdowns are nothing out of the ordinary in bull markets. You can have 50, 55% drawdowns, although not very common. We're currently at a 28% drawdown in the price of BTC. But again, as long as we hold above 71,912, the structure of the chart still remains intact. A break below, you could see a little bit of chop and consolidation between 60,900 and 71,008. And then at that point, if we do get that, depending on some other factors and indicators, we could potentially be heading into a bear market. But we're not there yet. We might never get there. We might just see a reversal. And there's a lot of things that are coming up that could affect that. I want to share this post here from the Kobayashi letter, kind of talking about the macro markets today and what happened. Let me take a sip of water and we'll break it down here together. So our thoughts on today's market crash, the worst drop since 2022. Investor confidence was at a pivot point. Investors were debating whether to buy the dip or a broader decline has begun. President Trump said he's not watching the stock market yet, right? Then he went on his interview talking about, willing to weather a market downturn. And you guys got to remember, especially the stock market, Wall Street, they are super sensitive to information. They overreact to almost everything in both ways, to the upside and to the downside. But this week and next week are going to be extremely important. And what Jerome Powell decides to do next Wednesday on my wife's birthday, which, Jerome, if you're watching the show for some reason, cut those damn rates, man. We ready, baby. We have a CPI print coming out this Wednesday in 2 days. Your February CPI print is coming out March 12th at 8:30 a.m. So you should see some volatility leading in as people are speculating on if we're going to get a hot inflation reading, if we're not going to get it, if inflation has cooled down. Now, the Fed, we know, looks at the PCE and the core CPI. And so those typically fall in line as far as CPI comes down, core usually comes down as well, and vice versa, obviously. So we'll see what happens. If the CPI print comes in lower than expected, you're going to see, and let's actually check in on the CME here. You're going to see this jump one direction or the other. So right now, the CME believes that there is a 96% chance that Jerome Powell does nothing in the next meeting. Okay? Does absolutely nothing. Only 4% believe that he's going to cut at least 25 basis points. Now, if the CPI reading comes in lower, I expect a 25% basis point rate cut. You also have the jobs numbers that came out, right? U.S. adds a decent 151,000 new jobs in February, but the outlook is darkening. The increase in hiring last month fell somewhat short of the 170,000 forecast, coming in 19,000 less. You also have unemployment rate is starting to tick back up again. Last month came in at 4.1% after we saw a drawdown in January down to 4%. And so why is this important? What does this have to do with crypto? When the Fed starts cutting rates, you're going to see a lot of companies, a lot of institutions, and obviously traders on Wall Street start to go risk on. And when they go risk on, that means Bitcoin and crypto will start to rally as new liquidity starts to flow in to the ecosystem, to the entire market. So that is what we are looking at, on top of GDP numbers expecting or continuing to get revised to the downside, showing that the economy is contracting. Again, I kind of dove into that in more detail in that Patreon post. But everything is kind of setting up this picture of Jerome Powell coming in next Wednesday and saying, out of his press conference, coming in and saying, look, we're going to cut 25 basis points. Inflation is at the target level we want it to get to, or is trending there. With a contraction in the economy, unemployment rate, we're trying to get ahead of this thing. Bam, that'll signal to the markets. The Fed is looking to pivot, and then that bounce back, those gaps that I showed, and the bounce back is going to be great. Now, on the way up, there's going to be, at least for Bitcoin, some key levels that I want to see taken out. One is 84,125. And then 86 to 86.5 is going to be a big one. If we can reclaim that and spend a little bit of time there, the next big one would be 92.5, between 92.5 and 94.17. If we can break above there, not just wick, close a candle, maybe rally up a little higher to that next stop around 96.6, come back down and retest and solidify 94 as former support, new resistance, former resistance, new support, 100K rally. And then after the 100K rally, you're going to get a FOMO rally. And then all your concerns about my portfolio keeps happening every week will all be gone. And then the picture will become a lot clearer. And this eventually, and I'll zoom out to the week, this eventually will be a small blip in the radar. And you can see here, again, this drawdown from 72, this was back in March of 2024, 72K down to 48K. It'll look exactly the same, and we'll see another big leg up for BTC. All right, we got 195 people in here, 253 people in here. Make sure to hit the like button. Randy said, this is scary. Don't be scared, man. It's going to be okay, brother. David FP said, my friends in the stock market are pissed too, not just crypto. Yeah. Again, I said it during the live show, but I just figured that Wall Street would be more comfortable with Trump. I don't get it. Big Swole said, I'm legit worried. Why? Why are you worried? I would not be worried, my friend. I don't know, unless you're overexposed to the markets and you know, you got your grocery money in there that you're not supposed to be. Unless your wife doesn't know you've been gambling on meme coins or buying altcoins at deep discounts. Then you should have nothing to be worried about. Also, Violet said she's ready to become a moderator. Done. You're officially a moderator. Thank you so much. Zhang Kang said ICP $5. Yeah, ICP took a drubbing. Booze say I'm calling bottom in 1 hour. XRP needs to stay above $1.95. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at XRP. Let's take a peek at XRP. Okay, so the box I have here is between $1.09 and $1.55. Let's zoom into the lower time frame and see if we can pick out. You know what? First, let's do this before we go in and manually throw on our SNR levels. Let's also throw on our MA bands. Obviously, we're trading below that. I'll wait for this thing to load, and we'll take a look at what are some key support and resistance levels for XRP. I mean, immediately without this thing popping up. Okay, there we go. All right. So the first thing, yeah, that $2, yeah. I mean, you're on the money, my friend. $1.96 to $2. That's your 4-hour, 2-hour, and your daily support zone for XRP. And you take a look, that has been a very key pivotal support level for XRP. As you look at historically, again, this is on the 4-hour. We had one close at this level. This was back on December 20th. One close, and then what you want to see from a price action standpoint is the next day or the next trading session or the next candle. What does it look like when you close at this important level? You see XRP gained it almost all back. It took a few more candles to take it all back plus some. Didn't put in a new high, failed to do that, and then kind of chopped sideways. But you see here, wick, and we haven't been down here again. Wick, even below. We're looking at this $1.96 to $2 level. Wick, right? And then technically a wick. We haven't closed, and you're starting to see a little bit of signs of reversal here for XRP. One thing I want to do is I want to get rid of these SNR levels. I want to throw on a nice anchored VWAP. Let's throw it on here. Oh, you see that? So we're catching some support on our anchored VWAP, our mid band here. And every time prices come down here, this was just historically going back to Monday. So a week ago, XRP closed at our anchored VWAP level and rallied 15%. Here, XRP wicked below, and then the rally was around 5.5%. And we see wick below, right, close above, and we're seeing a nice bounce off of this VWAP level, which currently sits at around $1.99. Haven't gotten a close here yet, and so expecting a bounce here for XRP, and we're looking at oversold conditions on XRP. So XRP setup looks really nice, but I agree with you, my friend, and I forget which one of you it was, but $1.96 to $2, I would expect a bounce, but again, with current market conditions, TA can go out of the window. If Wall Street decides to take a dump tomorrow, or Trump says he's going in and going to annex, I don't know, Canada or Mexico, then this could all go down the drain. But at the end of the day, from a probability standpoint, we should see a bounce for XRP from here. Now, where could we get a potential resistance? Well, the first thing I look at on the 4-hour chart is where was our last high? And our last high was here at $2.22. And so that would be a nice long setup. But be careful, we might come into a little bit of a bear flag setup here if we don't get all the way up there. Then I'm more keen to shorting this thing to the downside and potentially targeting this lower band level of our VWAP right around $1.76. And so, yeah, but a lot of volatility in the market. And just to kind of show you guys, the VIX was up 19% today. And the VIX has been steadily climbing up. This is super simple. You see a spike in the VIX, prices are going down. And so not nearly as high as we've seen previously where markets have completely tanked. And the most recent example was Monday, August 24th. You guys remember what that day was? That was Black Monday in Japan, where the Japanese yen carry trade fell completely apart. And the stock market, their stock market tanked. And so did ours here in the States. So yeah, but I agree with you. $1.95, $2 XRP, a pivotal level. And so, yeah, I might actually look to long that level. But again, who knows? Chili Pepper said Caspa. Yeah, Caspa's taking a drubbing. Let's take a look at Cas. Where are you, my friend Caspa? All right, let's do this. 8 cents was a very, very important level for Caspa, and obviously we've lost that. My value area for Caspa, I had two. One of them was between 9 and 11 cents. That obviously failed, but the one we're in now is between 4.1 and 5.5 cents. Now, if you've been watching the show, hopefully you would have had these levels out for yourself. And can we expect a bounce back from Caspa here? Let's see. You have a falling channel. Yes. We're at the pivotal level. Yes. Let's throw on a VWAP here. Let's see what we're seeing. Let's go here. Now we have broken below one of our VWAP lines, so not good. Now that should act as resistance on the way back up, but our next line kind of coincides with the bottom end of our box here. So for me, absolute max pain for Caspa would be 4.1 cents. We could potentially get there with the market conditions. You did also kind of have this head and shoulders pattern here that played out. You have your shoulder, your head, and then you can call this a shoulder, or some people drag this thing down and call that a shoulder. Either way, it broke to the downside, and 5.8 cents. If you believe in Caspa from a long-term standpoint, and here's the other thing we also took a look at. We had this bearish divergence on the daily for Caspa, and it eventually obviously broke to the downside. And so Caspa chart on the higher time frame, not looking very good as far as indicator wise. Let's zoom in and see if it looks any different. Let me get rid of this. Nothing on the RSI. We're oversold. Oh, the 1 hour. You're seeing a really nice bounce off of this 5.5 cent level. A really nice bounce. Now, this could be a potential setup. Now, although it's on the lower time frame, this could be a potential nice setup for a bull flag pattern, right? You have your big move to the upside. You have a downtrending channel, and these things do typically break to the upside. And your measured move for this one, just take the length of the pull. No, let's do this. Take the length of the pull, and then you just, the breakouts from here, you're looking at a move back up to around 6.29 cents, which remember was where that anchored VWAP line was there as well. And so Caspa for me is a long-term play. Obviously, trading it in the current market conditions, you can make some money. It's just from a volatility standpoint, it was range bound for a long time. I mean, you look here, this thing was range bound for a couple of days, range bound. Then we had that break to the downside. I mean, here's the thing with Caspa, like how much lower can this thing go, right? If you're looking to short Caspa, you're going to have to set your take profit at 5.5 cents. You're currently trading at 5.8 cents. So unless you're like 200x leverage trading, there's really not a lot of upside potential in trading Caspa. Again, unless you're going in with a lot of money or a lot of leverage, Caspa's one where it's at a point now where if you believe in Caspa and you believe in the future of Caspa, now's the time to add it to your spot bags. Add it to your spot bags, let that thing sit, let it marinate, give it another cycle, and you'll make a lot of money. I mean, you're looking at 5 cents, 10x to 50 cents. Maybe a 20x to $1. I think that'll happen. I was expecting that to happen this cycle, but it doesn't look like it. I mean, it would need to make up a lot of ground to get back to $1.25, or excuse me, from 20 cents to $1 is a 5x. Cool. Momentum, building, smart contracts, token, yada, 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 ecosystems growing. But from 5 cents, there's going to be a lot, unless some dramatic amount of liquidity enters the markets, a big partnership is announced. I would look to just add Caspa to your spot bags and be patient with it. Chris said ADA. I'll take a look at ADA. Redman said Stacks. Stacks is an interesting one. I was super bullish on Stacks. Stacks kind of fell into the what was your use case last cycle and what is your use case now? And do you have, is anyone coming in and taking market share? Polygon, L2 for ETH. Now this cycle, there's tons of L2s for ETH. And so I kind of throw stacks in there as well. You got ICP that does Bitcoin DeFi, smart contracts. You got ADA that's going to be doing it. And so it's not as big of a selling point from a utility standpoint versus something else. Peanut. No, I had some peanut. I sold it though. All right, let's take a look at some money flows. So this is net inflows over the last 1 day. The biggest inflows came into BTC with around $278 million flowing in. Majority of that came. Now, majority of these inflows come from stables or fiat currency. The biggest outflows on the day, BTC at 292 million, ETH saw outflows of 150 million, and then XRP, $100 million flowed out of XRP. And Bitcoin was the only other non-fiat asset that it went into. And so something interesting to take a look at. And then we take a look at the biggest oversold on the 24-hour for altcoins. And we take a look here. Toncoin, massively oversold. Ronin, massively oversold. And you know what? Actually, if you guys watched our earlier video we posted on the channel today, Ronin was one that I was looking to get into. Well, not get into, I have some, but looking to expand my position into Ronin. I think Ronin is going to be top two, maybe top one in gaming. And this area that it's coming into now, 39 to 98 cents, has been a key pivotal level for Ronin. We are again in oversold territory on the daily. We zoom into the 1 hour. This thing's chilling, man. It's chilling. I mean, you do have, we can throw some trend lines here, right? So you have this trend line, right? We flipped it and looks like it's currently holding support, right? And let me hide this. There we go. So this trend line, again, you can see $1.27 rejected, $1.23 rejected, right? We've come back up now. We reclaimed it, came in, had a double bottom, and then we had a nice bump and run. We had a nice bump and run. This was back on Tuesday, last Tuesday. And then we started trending up, and now we come back to retest this thing. We closed below for a 1 hourly candle, reclaimed, and now we're looking to retest it again. So if you're looking to long a project, I'm keen to think that Ronin is going to hold up this level of support. So if you're looking for a nice long entry, not financial advice, this thing could give, anything can happen, but there's a good chance 69.32 cents should yield you some money on a long trade for Ronin. Now, we've seen projects not give a shit about what the rest of the market is doing and just rally. Mantra is a perfect example. Ondo a few months ago was a perfect example. Caspa 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago was a perfect example. Could we see with GTA 6 coming out, the gaming narrative start to gain some traction? Could we see projects like Ronin? We know from a fundamental standpoint, and again, I'm not going to share what I shared in the pre-recorded video. We uploaded to YouTube today. You can go watch that after the show is over. But I kind of broke down some of the fundamentals and what is happening under the hood for Ronin. And this thing is currently sitting at oversold territory. And so these are projects you want to scoop up at these price levels. I said it so many times today in multiple videos. This is the fourth video I've done today. Live show, short, pre-recorded, and this is going to be the fourth video, and every one of them. Market conditions like this are the easiest places to find undervalued projects and make money. It really is. It's not a question of, is the all-time high reached? This is the top here. We know the top ain't in, okay? At least we have a pretty good idea the top ain't in, unless you're a perma bear. And you're looking at key levels. You're looking at where's the market going to go? You can look at the sector it's in, gaming. It's going to be massive. And so Ronin's a great play here for me long-term and on a potential long trade here as well. Some of the other ones. Let's zoom in here. Akash is actually oversold on the weekly as well. For Akash Network. Let's see what else we have here. We already went over Ronin. BMEX is oversold. I mean, literally everything is oversold. Now, if we zoom in to the 4 hour, what's the most oversold? Arweave. You know, I was uber bullish on Arweave. Let me pull up an Arweave chart and I'll talk through it. You know, I was bullish on the AO supercomputer. I was bullish on, you know, obviously their main shtick being decentralized file storage. Great, that's awesome. But I mean, Arweave is at its all-time low. It's at its all-time low of $5.59. My one issue with Arweave over the last few days and over the last couple of weeks, let me draw my value area. Gives me a good basis, okay? My thing with Arweave was there's now, I believe, 3 Arweave tokens, okay? Obviously, they're not all Arweave, but there's a different token for the AO supercomputer, and there's a different one for, it was another Arweave product. And so I think fragmenting liquidity like that for price action is not a good thing. And so I haven't sold any Arweave. I think we're going to see still see a really nice pump. Arweave has some of the best tokenomics, period, in all of crypto. And if you're looking to accumulate, now would be a perfect time to accumulate Arweave. I just stopped adding to my position, and I'm looking to ride this thing out on the higher time frame. $25 would be a great exit if you do buy here at $5.55. A solid 5x, and when this thing gets running, it runs, as you can see here, seeing a 216% monthly candle, and it wasn't even its biggest one. The biggest one it had was a 5x in a month. So we know when altcoins move, they move extremely fast. All right, I'm gonna take a peek at the chat, and then we'll jump into some token unlocks, see if we can find anything in there. You think Hedera can still break through $1? Absolutely. I think Hedera can definitely break into $1. Near. I don't want to say I'm worried about Near, but I don't know. I'm torn on Near. You guys know me. I've been a big Near bull. Price action aside, I mean, that's the monthly. You're at your buy zone if you're looking to pick up Near. This is actually a level I didn't think we were going to get, but here we are. And on the daily, let's take a look. Now, I did have this on Near. So I was looking forward to this level holding, and we did get some confluence here at $2.50, but we gave it up. We broke below. And so on the way back up, when we see a rally from Near, expect resistance at $2.40. There's no volume behind them, right? Unless it's a selling day, then you'll see a shitload of volume. And then one more thing I want to do, let's pick out a point. Let's throw on our anchored VWAP. Let's go here. So the next big level of support for Near, which we haven't broken yet, is going to be around $2 even. I would long Near at $2. I really would. And if you've been looking to add Near, if you're a Near bull and you've been looking to add Near, and you're like, David, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Near is the best project in the world. $2 would be an absolutely amazing entry for Near protocol. And you have some confluence here on this trend line as well, to the downside. But zooming into the 1 hour, let me get rid of this here. Again, these setups are all the same. You have falling channels and you have bear flags. Let's see what the 30-minute looks like. Actually, the 15-minute. You guys seeing it, right? Bear flag, break to the downside. Now, $2.24 is where you want to hold, which is the last low we saw Near. But yeah, never mind. Thought we saw some bullish divergence, but we did not. But Near protocol, let's throw this on. Let's see what we're seeing. See if any big order blocks, any gaps we created on the way down. Not really. Our previous day low was $2.24. So that would be a great entry. As you see what Near did at that price level. This was earlier today. It bounced, it had a 5% bounce, which is pretty good on a 15-minute chart. On the 1 hour chart, we did create a gap on the way down, and that gap is between 235 and around $2.42. So I expect that gap to fill, but not really, honestly, not really anytime soon. And just, I mean, every time frame is just, let's go to the higher. Let's go to the weekly. Okay. So the weekly, we completely skipped this giant order block where 23%, so 1.169 billion Near protocol was traded at that level between $2.50 and $3.10, with buys coming in at around 1.75 more than sellers. And when Near came into this order block, it rallied 223%. Now, of course, this is on the higher time frame, but we fell through that order block area. And so the next one you're looking at, and doesn't look like we created a gap. The next one is down here at $1. Is down here at $1, where we had around 650 million Near that was traded. So the higher time frames, the lower time frames is just, Near is just, I don't know. Again, I haven't sold my Near. I know they're building. We've had the team on the show many times. I'm not saying the project is dead, but I just think when I look to the top 100 list and I see Avalanche at $16 and I see Cardano at 68 cents and I see XRP under $2, $1.96, look to long XRP at $1.96. And so I look at those and I weigh my risk versus reward, right? There's something called opportunity cost. Am I going to lose out on money by being in Near versus Chainlink at $12.51, at Near versus Cardano at 66 cents, at Near versus Bitcoin at $77,600? So that is the way I approach it, whether I'm going to buy, hold, or sell, is I look at opportunity costs and I look at what's going to bring me the best ROI in the time frame that I'm looking for that ROI. All right. Put the whale... the whales are shorting. The whales are shorting anymore. Aren't shorting anymore. Are shorting anymore. Either way, the whales are shorting, not anymore. I'll buy more when it gets to $1. Yeah, I mean, you if you got the patience to wait, $1 would be an amazing entry for Near protocol. And then, as promised, take a look at some of the token unlocks here. So we have Aptos in 23 hours. Now, I remember I was looking at Aptos and SUI. This was a few months ago, and their unlocks. And we were able to make some pretty good trades looking at the unlocks and how price has reacted to the unlocks leading up to and directly after. So we take a look at the upcoming one, which is in about, again, I think 21 hours, 23 hours. You have around 2% of the market cap that is being unlocked, around 1% of the total supply. And looks like foundation investors and core contributors. So potential sellers are getting the lion's share of the token unlocks, the community only getting around 0.63%. Now look at past, right? So it looks like the 11th of every single month is when we see unlocks for Aptos. So let's go to the Aptos chart. And then we'll take a look at how price action has been around the 11th of each month. Fine. I'll just pull up a new one, damn it. All right, Aptos, daily, remove indicators. Close this out. And let's find the last three, okay? The last three. So we're looking for February 11th. So I'll do a day before. There's one. Looking at January 11th. So the 10th. There's two. And then we're looking for December 11th. So the 10th. There's three. Okay. All right. So what has Aptos done leading into and directly after its token unlocks? Okay, so leading up to it, saw a big drawdown. This was back right before the December unlock. We saw Aptos fall down to around $11.54 and then had a rally on the day of the unlocks. It rallied around 30%. This was back in January of this year. Aptos fell 3 days prior, fell around 20%. It continued for a little bit, and then we saw a relief rally of around 20%. And this one was a little more different, right? This one, we kind of saw price sideways and chop. We had a little bit of a rally going in, and then we actually had a spill off with a miserable, lame, failed attempt at a rally that was ended up being 28% from close to wick, and then Aptos is kind of here. So what are we seeing now with Aptos, okay? You're seeing something similar to what we saw before the January unlock. Rally going in, 3 days prior, price starts to go down, right? Where's my handy dandy drawing tool? Rally going in, price come down, rally again, price starts to go down, and this is where you would have your unlock, right? And I'll just throw a vertical line here. So we're going to see something similar to what we saw here, where we see a rally of around, what did we say? A rally from around $8.40 to around $9.90. Now, obviously, market dynamics and market sentiment could completely change that. It's not something set in stone. It's just historical patterns and trends. And what you typically see, could some of this be manipulation from the people that are getting their tokens unlocked? Potentially. It unlocks, it rallies. Everyone's like, oh my God, it's not going to dump. And then it dumps. Rallies, and then it dumps. Rallies, and then it dumps. So could we see something similar? Let's get rid of these. And let's see if we are at any key support and resistance levels for Aptos. I got so mad at my wife today. She took my freaking last energy drink. Pissed. So there's 2-hour support at $5 even, right? We've had a few wicks down here, and price has reacted fairly well. From $5, rallied up to $6.53. From $5, rallied up to $6.75. Could we expect another rally from Aptos, potentially? And you do kind of have... falling wedge. Call it potentially a head and shoulders pattern, right? If we remove these and we kind of zoom in, and by the way, this is on the daily, okay? You have this potential head and shoulders pattern on the daily. So there's your shoulder, there's your head, and then here's your shoulder, which we've already broken, which we've already broken through the neckline. And so technically, this pattern has played out. Now, how much lower can this thing go? Let's zoom out to the weekly. I mean, this is it, guys. This is it for Aptos. So Aptos might be, if we're going to long anything, okay? If we're going to long anything, Aptos would be the one to long. You have the breakout of the head and shoulders. You had historical patterns and price action on the token unlocks, and you have it at a absolutely massive high time frame support level, which is $4.85. Will we get there? Maybe, but we're sitting at $5.10. And so one of two ways you can play this. Way number one is you wait for it to hit that $4.85. If you're patient, if you're disciplined, great. Do that. Go to your platform you use. We use BuyDeFi. We also have a Mexi link in the description, also a Hotcoin link in the description as well. Set a limit order at $4.87. Do it a little bit above that, right? Just in case we don't quite get there, but we see a nice bounce. Or you can look at this and say, we might not get there. We didn't get here on a close and price rallied. We got here on a close and price rallied. So you can do the first option, or the second option is to get into on a market order. And you can see Aptos is actually rallying now. It's at $5.14. So it's up 4 cents since 30 seconds ago. You can enter it now, but on lower leverage and with a tight stop loss under $4.85, around $4.82. Just in case we get that wick, you don't want to get stopped out. And I would have your target exit right around $6.85, your TP, your take profit. Now let's zoom into the daily and let's see if we can find any confluence on our VWAP. Not you there. Let's throw one here. Okay, so this is on that big volume day that Aptos actually ended up closing green. If we move this to, because it's not a lot of data, right? Let's move this to here. So the VWAP is telling us we might have a little more downside to around $4.16, but we're still trading above. We're still trading above, and you can see what price does when it gets to this VWAP level. It bounces, break below, come back, bounce, 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 bounce. Anyways, so potential long here for Aptos at $5.10. Again, if you want the absolute best entry, point blank period, $4.85 is a level to look at. There's a few other ones on here that we will look at as well, but not today. I am done for the day. I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. Don't be scared. Everything is going to be just fine, and come back for the morning live show at 2 p.m. Eastern. See you guys. Peace.